The nurse handed me the birth certificate in the delivery room. Father's line, blank. She'd been my student 10 years ago. She couldn't look me in the eye. Students from Millbrook Regional High were walking past the maternity ward window. My school, where I'm principal, where everyone knows Principal Hartley and his guidance counselor wife are having a baby. Except the baby wasn't mine. The birth certificate was cream-colored, heavy cardstock, the kind of official document that feels important in your hands. The Vermont state seal was watermarked into the paper. You could trace the embossed seal with your fingertip if you wanted. Under father, there was just a blank line, waiting for a signature that wasn't coming. Jenny, the nurse, placed the form on the rolling tray beside my chair. Her hand shook slightly. "Mr. Hartley," she said quietly, "the hospital administrator needs this signed before we can process the discharge paperwork." I didn't touch it. "I need to think about it." Her eyes widened. In a town of 8,200 people, everyone knows everyone's business. By morning, this would be all over Millbrook. By noon, it would reach the 4 surrounding towns we serve. "Take your time," she whispered. Then she left, closing the door with a soft click that sounded like a gunshot. 8 months earlier, I thought I knew my wife. It was early March when everything started to feel wrong. Not obviously wrong, just off, like a picture frame hanging slightly crooked that you notice every time you walk past. I was sitting in my office at the family sugar house, reviewing the quarterly financials with Melissa. She was the CFO of Hartley's Pure Vermont Maple, had been for 6 years. My great-grandfather started the business in 1924. My grandfather expanded it. My father nearly lost it in the 2008 recession. My brother Graham and I saved it. The ledger sat between us on the desk. Forest green leather, 12 by 18 inches, heavy with history. When you opened it, the spine cracked slightly, like old bones settling. The pages whispered as you turned them, thin accounting paper from decades ago. My grandfather's handwriting filled the pages from the 1940s, perfect copperplate script that they don't teach anymore. Each number lined up precisely. His integrity was literally written into that book. Melissa ran her finger down the current year's entries. Her handwriting was different, modern, efficient, all business. "Equipment maintenance costs are up," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. I leaned forward. "By how much?" "About 15%. She flipped the page quickly. "Old equipment. You know how it is." "Which equipment?" She laughed. That controlled laugh she used when she wanted me to stop asking questions. "Ethan, I've got this handled. That's why you hired me as CFO, remember?" Across the room, my brother Graham looked up from his clipboard. He handled production, I handled business operations and ran the high school. Melissa handled the money. "She's right," Graham said. "Let her do her job." I nodded. Melissa closed the ledger with a satisfying thump. The leather smelled rich and old, like history, like trust. "Any other concerns?" she asked. I thought about mentioning how distant she'd been lately, how she came home at 11, midnight, 1 in the morning from family readiness group meetings for the school, how she'd stopped wearing her wedding ring 3 months ago, said the metal irritated her skin. Instead, I said, "No, you've got this." She smiled, gathered the ledger, left. Graham watched her go. "You okay?" "Fine," I said, but I wasn't. And looking back, that was my first mistake, trusting her when every instinct screamed something was wrong. The hotel receipt fell out of Melissa's car visor on a Tuesday afternoon in late March. Lily had borrowed her mother's car to get to field hockey practice. She was 15, a sophomore at the high school where both her parents worked. The receipt fluttered down onto the passenger seat when she pulled down the visor to block the sun. She brought it to me that evening in my office at school. The building was quiet. Most teachers had gone home. Just the hum of the heating system and the distant sound of the janitorial staff emptying trash cans. Lily stood in front of my desk, still in her field hockey uniform, dirt on her knees. She held the receipt between two fingers like it might bite her. "Dad," she said quietly, "why was Mom at a hotel?" The receipt was thermal paper, that waxy, slick kind that fades in sunlight. It was already curling at the edges, trying to roll itself up. Burlington Hilton, February 14th, 2025, Valentine's Day. 2 room keys issued. Dinner for Tua's Honey Saab 143. I felt my stomach drop. "Where did you find this?" "In her car. It fell out of the visor." Lily's voice was small. "She told us she was at that teacher conference, the professional development thing in Burlington, you remember? She said only new faculty were invited, so you couldn't come." I remembered. I'd wanted to go. Melissa insisted it was just for teachers hired in the last 2 years. Owen Thatcher had gone. He was in his 2nd year teaching English. New hire. "Dad?" Lily's voice cracked. Is she... I stood up, came around the desk, pulled her into a hug. She was shaking. "I don't know, sweetheart, but I'm going to find out." She pulled back, wiping her eyes. "Don't tell her I showed you, please. I don't want her to be mad at me." My heart broke. My 15-year-old daughter was trying to protect me and simultaneously terrified of her mother's reaction. "Go to practice," I said gently. "I've got this." After she left, I sat at my desk for 20 minutes just holding that receipt. If you scratched the thermal paper, it left black marks, almost like it was bleeding evidence. The date haunted me. Valentine's Day. My wife had spent Valentine's Day with someone else. The receipt smelled faintly chemical, the way receipts do, but to me, it smelled like betrayal. I tucked it into my desk drawer and locked it. If you've ever had to hide heartbreak from your kids, if you've ever smiled through dinner while dying inside, just type "shield" in the comments. Sometimes being a parent means suffering alone. You're not the only one. I waited until after midnight, then went back to my office at school. I told Melissa I had paperwork to catch up on. She barely looked up from her phone. The faculty files were in the main office, locked in the filing cabinet. As principal, I had the master key. I pulled the manila folder labeled Professional Development 2024-25. Inside were the attendance sheets, standard school forms, blue ballpoint checkboxes, coffee ring stains on several pages. The paper was thin copy paper that crinkled when I handled it. There was that musty school office smell, old files mixed with stale coffee. I spread 6 months of forms across the desk. September 12th, 13, Teacher Workshop, Burlington, Melissa Hartley, present, Owen Thatcher, present. October 18th, 19, Curriculum Development Conference, Montpellier, Melissa Hartley, present, Owen Thatcher, present. November 8-9, Educational Technology Summit, Burlington, Melissa Hartley, present, Owen Thatcher, present. December 6-7, Winter Professional Development, Burlington, Melissa Hartley, present, Owen Thatcher, present. January 15th to 16, Mid-Year Planning Retreat, Burlington, Melissa Hartley, present, Owen Thatcher, present. February 14th, 15, New Faculty Orientation Extension, Burlington, Melissa Hartley, present, Owen Thatcher, present. 6 conferences, 6 times they'd both been gone overnight, and every single one I'd signed the approval form as principal. My signature was right there at the bottom. My hand started shaking. I pulled Owen Thatcher's personnel file. Hired 18 months ago, August 2023. English teacher, master's degree from Middlebury. References excellent. Son of the Thatcher family. Wealthy summer residents who owned the lakefront estate on the north side of town. Engaged to Emily Gardner, the town librarian. I felt sick. 6 overnight conferences. 6 times they both disappeared. And I'd signed off on every single one. Every single lie had my approval on it. The DNA test kit arrived on a Friday morning in mid-April. I'd ordered it online 3 weeks earlier, late at night after lying awake calculating conception dates and wondering if I was losing my mind. I'd shipped it to my home address, except it didn't go to my home address. The package arrived at the school, at the front office, during passing period. I was in the hallway when Margaret, our school secretary, not related to my mother, called out, "Mr. Hartley, package for you." I walked into the office. 20 students were crowded around the desk, picking up hall passes, asking questions, the usual morning chaos. 2 teachers were checking their mailboxes. Owen Thatcher was standing near the copy machine. Margaret held up a blue cardboard box, 6 inches by 4 inches. The label was printed in large black letters, DNA Paternity Test, Vermont Genetics Lab. The office went silent. Every student looked at me. Both teachers froze. Owen went pale. The box was small in Margaret's hand, but it felt enormous. Inside, I knew, were 2 plastic tubes with cotton swabs, sealed in crackly plastic packaging, a prepaid return envelope, instructions for collecting cheek cells. This small blue box held the power to destroy everything, or validate what I already knew. "Thank you," I said quietly, taking it from her. I walked back to my office with my head up, the box under my arm. Behind me, I could hear the whispers starting. By lunchtime, every student in that school knew. By dinner, the entire town of 8,200 people had heard. Principal Hartley ordered a paternity test and sent it to the school by accident. Graham called me at 2 a.m, 3 days after the DNA test incident. "Get to the sugar house, now." His voice was wrong, tight, angry, scared. I'd heard him sound like that exactly once before, when our father almost lost the business in 2008. I drove through empty streets. Millbrook at 2 a.m. is silent except for the occasional dog barking. The sugar house sat at the edge of town, a century-old building with our family name painted on the side in letters 3 feet tall. The lights were on inside. Graham was in the office, the forest green ledger open on the desk between us. His finger traced down recent entries. The leather smelled the same, old and rich, like history, but now it smelled like evidence. "Look at this," he said, his voice shook. "Equipment maintenance. 11 entries over the past year. Always round numbers. Always coded the same way." I leaned over. $3,200, $3,000, $2,800, $3,500, on and on. "That's normal, isn't it? We have old equipment." "Ethan." Graham pulled out a stack of invoices. "These are the real equipment maintenance invoices. From actual vendors, dated, itemized. They total $8,400 for the year." He pointed back to the ledger. "These entries total $35,000. My blood went cold. "I called the bank," Graham continued, "got them to pull the check images. Every single one of these equipment maintenance payments went to the same 3 places. He slid 3 pieces of paper toward me. Owen Thatcher's apartment complex, Owen Thatcher's car dealership, Owen Thatcher's credit card company. The sugar house was quiet except for the distant hum of refrigeration units. Equipment we actually needed, running on honest electricity, paid for with honest money. "She stole from us," I whispered. "She stole from the family business." Graham's face was hard. "To pay for her affair. She funded his entire lifestyle with our money. 4 generations, Ethan. Great-grandfather started this in 1924. Grandfather built it. Dad nearly lost it, but we saved it. We never lost money to a stranger in 100 years. He looked at me, and his eyes were wet. "But we lost it to her." I confronted my mother the next morning. Margaret Hartley sat at my kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of tea she wasn't drinking. She was 68, the matriarch who'd built the business alongside my father before he died. She still owned 51% of the shares. "I need to tell you something," she said before I could speak. "And you're going to hate me for it." I waited. "I've known about Melissa and Owen for 2 months. The words hit me like a physical blow. I sat down hard in the opposite chair. "What?" "Melissa came to me in February, crying, begging. She told me about the affair, said it was over, said she was pregnant and terrified you'd find out. She asked me to help her convince you to work it out, to keep the family together, for the business. My mother's voice was flat, mechanical, like she'd rehearsed this. You knew? My voice came out strangled. You had Sunday dinners with us knowing. You watched me, your son, and you said nothing. I thought I was protecting the business. She finally looked at me. Her eyes were red. I thought I was protecting the family name, the Hartley reputation, 100 years of trust in this town. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands, opened her messages, turned the screen toward me. The texts were from Melissa, dozens of them. Please, Margaret, you have to help me. If Ethan finds out, he'll destroy everything. Talk to him. Make him understand. The business needs stability. If you don't help me convince him, I'll tell everyone he embezzled the money. I have access to everything. Who do you think they'll believe? Don't make me destroy what your husband built. My mother's hands trembled around the phone. I chose the business over you, she whispered. I watched my own son suffer because I was afraid of scandal, because I cared more about what people thought than about the truth. I let Melissa manipulate me with threats. She set the phone down. My father, your grandfather, had a saying, sweet things can spoil if you harvest them at the wrong time. He was talking about maple syrup, but he meant everything. I tried to preserve something that was already rotten. I prioritized legacy over truth, and I'm so sorry. I couldn't speak. My own mother had known for 2 months, while I was going crazy trying to figure out what was wrong. Why are you telling me now? Because I won't make that mistake with Lily. Her voice broke. I won't let my silence destroy another generation. I won't let you enable lies the way I did. My father died angry at himself for always choosing peace over honesty. I won't do that to you. She reached across the table. I pulled my hand away. Ethan, get out. She left. The tea sat on the table, cooling, untouched. Emily Gardner showed up at my house that evening with a laptop and a look of cold fury I'd never seen on the Sweettown librarian's face. I'm Owen's fiancé, she said at the door. Former fiancé as of 3 hours ago. Can I come in? I let her in. We sat in my living room, the same room where Melissa and I used to watch movies with Lily on Friday nights, back when I thought we were happy. Emily opened her laptop. Her hands were steady, but her jaw was tight. Owen told me you were the problem, she said, that you were controlling, that Melissa was trapped in an emotionally abusive marriage, that she came on to him and he was trying to let her down gently, but you were making it impossible. She turned the screen toward me. These are his text messages with Melissa. I've been documenting everything for 3 months because something felt wrong. I thought he was lying to me. Turns out he was lying to everyone. I read the messages. My stomach turned. Owen, tell him you'll leave town if he signs the birth certificate. My parents will give you $100K to start over. Make it sound like you're doing him a favor. Melissa, he's too stupid to know what's good for him. He thinks he's so moral, so principled. He'll sign because he won't want the scandal. Owen, and if he doesn't? Melissa, then I'll tell everyone he embezzled the money. I have the ledger. I can make it look like he did it. Who are they going to believe? The guidance counselor who helps their kids, or the principal who profits from the family business? Owen, you're brilliant. God, I can't wait until this is over and we can be together. Melissa, just keep playing victim with Emily. We need her to think you're the good guy. Small town loyalty, remember? The librarian everyone loves versus the mean principal. Easy win. Emily's voice was cold. He said you were the bad guy, that you were making everything difficult. These texts tell a different story. They plan to manipulate you, gaslight you, and if that didn't work, frame you for embezzlement. She clicked through more screenshots. There are 47 messages like this, planning, scheming, laughing about how easy it would be. I couldn't breathe. Why are you showing me this? Because I'm not going to let him make me an accomplice to fraud. Emily's eyes flashed. And because what Melissa is doing to you is exactly what Owen did to me. making you think you're crazy when you're the only sane one. I won't be part of that. She closed the laptop. I've already sent copies to my lawyer. Consider this your heads up. Whatever you need from me, testimony, evidence, anything, I'm on your side. She stood to leave, then paused at the door. For what it's worth, Mr. Hartley, the whole town knows what happened, and most of us think you're handling it with more grace than they deserve. After she left, I sat in the dark living room for an hour. The weight of it was crushing. Not just the affair, not just the embezzlement, but the premeditation, the planning, the cruelty. He's too stupid to know what's good for him. My wife thought I was stupid. I confronted Owen on Monday morning before school started. I found him in his classroom, setting up for first period. The room smelled like old books and whiteboard markers. Student essays were stacked on his desk, ungraded. Mr. Thatcher, I said from the doorway, a word. He turned, went pale when he saw my face. Principal Hartley, I was just... Save it. I stepped inside, closed the door, pulled the faculty attendance sheets from my bag and dropped them on his desk. The thin paper crinkled against the wood. 6 conferences, 6 times you and my wife disappeared together. You signed every request, every lie. Owen backed up a step. It wasn't... She came on to me. I tried to... Stop! My voice was low, controlled. Years of dealing with lying teenagers had taught me how to spot a con. I've seen the texts. Emily showed me everything. I know about the plan, the $100K offer, the threats to frame me for embezzlement. His face crumbled, just like that. The handsome English teacher with the wealthy parents turned into a coward. My father we can pay you. Whatever you want. Just don't what? Tell the truth? I stepped closer. You're 29 years old. You seduced a woman in your workplace. You helped her embezzle from a family business. You planned to manipulate me into claiming another man's child. And when that didn't work, you were going to help her frame me for a crime you both committed. I didn't know about the embezzlement. That was all her. The text guests say otherwise. A knock at the door. We both turned. Superintendent Sandra Price stood there, face grim. The school secretary hovered behind her. Mr. Hartley, Mr. Thatcher, my office, now. The secretary must have heard raised voices, called the superintendent. Owen looked like he might throw up. As we walked down the hallway, empty, thank God, because classes hadn't started, Sandra said quietly, "This conversation is over. Mr. Thatcher, my office, tomorrow, 8 a.m. Bring your union representative." His teaching career was done. Melissa cornered me at the sugar house 2 days later. She looked terrible, hair unwashed, eyes wild. She was 5 months pregnant, showing now, the baby that wasn't mine. "You're going to destroy everything," she hissed. I was in the office reviewing actual equipment maintenance invoices with Graham, trying to calculate how much she'd stolen, how many months of payments we'd missed, how close we'd come to losing employees because we thought we were broke when actually she was just stealing. "I'm going to tell the truth," I said calmly. "That's not the same thing." "The Maple Festival is in 3 weeks. She pulled something from her purse, a glossy brochure trifold, the kind we printed every year to promote the event. This year's festival was the big one, our centennial celebration. She unfolded it, slapped it on the desk. The cover showed our family, Ethan, Melissa, and Lily at the sugar house, all smiling. The tagline read, 100 years of family tradition. 5,000 copies already printed, already distributed across 5 counties. "This is your moment," she said desperately. "Our moment. The whole town is coming, regional media coverage. This is your legacy. Don't destroy it with your pride." "My pride?" I stared at her. "You embezzled $35,000. You had an affair with a subordinate. You tried to manipulate me into signing a birth certificate for another man's child. And when I wouldn't, you planned to frame me for your crimes." Her face hardened. "Who do you think they'll believe, Ethan? The guidance counselor who's helped their kids through crisis after crisis, or the principal who profits from the family business? I have access to everything. I can make it look like you took that money. Who do you think the town will side with? Graham stood up from his chair. Get out. This is my business too, Melissa snapped. I'm CFO. Not anymore, I said quietly. As of this morning, you're removed from all financial accounts. Graham and I filed a formal complaint with the state. The business attorney is reviewing your actions for criminal prosecution. Her face went white, then red. You can't... I already did. She looked between us, breathing hard. Then she played her final card. Fine, then I'll tell everyone you knew about the money, that you approved it, that we were in it together, and now you're trying to pin it on me because of the affair. It's your signature on those sheets, Ethan, your approval, your oversight. Whose story sounds more believable? The sugar house was quiet except for the distant hum of machinery. Equipment running on honest work, built by honest hands over 4 generations. If you were me, if your wife threatened to destroy you unless you signed, would you sign to protect your career and town reputation? Type sign. Or refuse and face the consequences? Type refuse. What would you do? The truth is, I didn't know either, but I knew I couldn't live with myself if I chose the lie. Do your worst, I said, but I'm not signing that certificate, and I'm not pretending anymore. She stared at me for a long moment, then grabbed the festival brochure and stormed out. The glossy paper made a crisp sound as the door slammed. That image of our perfect family scattered on the desk. 100 years of family tradition built on lies. Sweet things can spoil if you harvest them at the wrong time. That night, my phone rang at midnight. Lily's name on the screen. Dad? Her voice was small, breaking. I sat up in bed immediately. Lily, what's wrong? Where are you? I'm at Coach Beth's house. She said I could stay here. A pause. I heard her crying softly. I can't come home, Dad. I can't. My chest tightened. Sweetheart, what happened? I heard you and Mom fighting at the sugar house. I was in the parking lot. I'd come to drop off your lunch you forgot. I heard everything. The money, the planning, what she said about you. She sobbed once, hard. I can't look at her. I can't be in that house. I keep thinking about all the times she came home late. All the times she said she was at FRG meetings or conferences. All the times you guys pretended everything was fine at dinner. I keep thinking, was I the only one who believed the lies? I closed my eyes. The antique brass maple tap sat on my nightstand. I'd brought it home from my office. This physical connection to 4 generations of honest work. The brass was cold in my hand. Lily, I'm so sorry. I can't play hockey anymore either. Her voice cracked completely. Championship qualifier is Saturday, but I can't. I keep thinking about how many lies happened in our house. How many times you guys pretended everything was fine. I can't pretend anymore, Dad. Not even for hockey. The line went quiet except for her crying. Then don't, I said finally. My voice was rough. Real life isn't about pretending, sweetheart. It's about truth, even when truth is hard. But what if truth breaks everything? I looked at the brass tap in my hand, Hartley 1924, engraved in the metal. My great-grandfather had used this, had built something real, something that lasted. Sweet things can spoil if you harvest them at the wrong time, I said softly. But you know what? When you try to preserve something that's already rotten, you lose it anyway. I've been trying to keep our family together, but I've really been keeping the lie together. What are we going to do? We're going to tell the truth together, and whatever happens after that, we'll face it honestly. She was quiet for a moment, then, okay, Dad. Stay at Coach Beth's tonight. We'll figure everything out tomorrow. After we hung up, I sat in the dark bedroom, the one I'd shared with Melissa for 15 years, and realized the full cost of her betrayal. Not the business, not my reputation, not even my marriage. My daughter. My 15-year-old daughter was giving up her sport, her home, her sense of safety because she couldn't pretend anymore. I taught her that lying was love, that keeping peace was more important than truth, and she'd learned the lesson too well. Now she was punishing herself for our lies. 4 generations built this family, and I'd almost let lies rot it from the inside. The lawyer's office smelled like old paper and leather furniture. David Chen had handled the Hartley family business for 20 years. He'd helped us through the 2008 recession, drafted contracts, resolved disputes with vendors. This was different. "You're sure about this?" he asked, reviewing the documents spread across his mahogany desk. I nodded. "I'm sure." The birth certificate sat in the center, that cream-colored official form with the blank father's line, the state seal watermarked into the heavy cardstock. Next to it, divorce papers, embezzlement complaint, emergency custody filing for Lily. Graham sat beside me. My mother Margaret sat on my other side. She'd given a notarized affidavit about Melissa's threats, her own complicity, everything she knew. "The DNA results came back this morning," I said, sliding the envelope across the desk. David opened it, read. His jaw tightened. 99.7% probability of paternity. Owen Thatcher is the biological father. He looked up at me. "Ethan, once I file these documents, there's no going back. Melissa will fight. It'll get ugly. And in a town this small..." "I know." My voice was steady. "File them." He nodded, started arranging papers for my signature. "There's one more thing," Graham said quietly. "Kelly and I want to adopt the baby." I turned to him, my older brother who'd run the production side of the business while I handled administration, who'd stood beside me through everything. "You're serious?" "We've been trying for 3 years. His voice was thick. "Fertility treatments, nothing's worked. When everything happened, Kelly said maybe this is how we're meant to be parents. An open adoption, the baby stays in the family, knows where they came from, but grows up with parents who chose them." David made a note. "I'll draw up the adoption papers. Given the circumstances, this might be the best outcome for everyone." When Melissa's lawyer called 2 hours later to negotiate, it was too late. The paperwork was filed. The truth was documented. The machinery of justice had engaged. I called Lily the next morning, asked her to meet me at my office at school. She came after her last class, still wearing her field hockey practice jersey, even though she hadn't gone to practice in a week. The jersey was wrinkled like she'd slept in it, dark circles under her eyes. She stood in front of my desk, arms crossed, defensive. "I'm not going back to that house, Dad." "I know." I opened my desk drawer, pulled out the antique brass maple tap. "I wanted to give you something." I placed it on the desk between us. The brass was 6 inches long, tarnished with that sea green verdigris patina from a century of use. The wooden handle was worn smooth where 4 generations of Hartley hands had gripped it. When it touched the desk, it made a small, hollow ping, like a cracked bell that still rings true. Lily looked at it, confused. "What is it?" "Your great-great-grandfather used this to tap maple trees in 1924. Then your great-grandfather, then Grandpa, then me." I picked it up, felt its surprising weight. Solid brass, not hollow. "I was supposed to give it to you when you graduated, to pass on the tradition." I held it out to her. "But you need it now." She took it carefully, traced the engraving with her fingertip. "Hartley 1924. 4 generations use this," I said. "Your great-great-grandfather stamped that himself, built a business on honest work, real maple syrup, no cutting corners, no lies." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "What if I ruin it?" Her voice broke. "What if I'm not strong enough to carry this? Everything's falling apart and I don't know how to fix it." I came around the desk, knelt in front of her so we were eye level. "You're already stronger than I was, Lily. You know why?" She shook her head. "Because you faced the truth. You couldn't pretend anymore, even when pretending would have been easier, even when it meant giving up hockey. That takes more courage than anything I've done. I touched the brass tap in her hands. You can't ruin something built on truth. Only lies can do that. This tap has lasted 100 years because it was made right, made honest. That's what you're building now. An honest life. It might be harder, it might hurt, but it'll last. She dropped the tap on my desk and threw her arms around me, sobbed into my shoulder. I'm so scared, Dad. Me too, sweetheart, me too. We stood there for a long time, holding each other in my office while the afternoon sun slanted through the windows. When she finally pulled back, she picked up the brass tap again. Can I keep this, even if I don't know what to do with it yet? It's yours. It's always been yours. She left with the tap clutched in her hand, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something that wasn't grief or rage or exhaustion. I felt hope. The consequences came quickly after that. Melissa was arrested on embezzlement charges. The state attorney offered a plea deal. Guilty plea, full restitution of $35,000, 3 years probation, 500 hours community service. The alternative was trial, possible prison time, and guaranteed exposure. She took the plea. She resigned from both her position as guidance counselor and as CFO of Hartley's Pure Vermont Maple. Effective immediately, Owen's teaching contract was non-renewed by the school board. They couldn't fire him mid-year without cause, but they made it clear he wouldn't be welcomed back. His wealthy parents paid off his debts, and he left town within a week. I heard through Emily that he moved to Boston. His engagement to Emily had ended the day she showed me those texts. The school board held a public meeting in late April. I'd been prepared for them to ask for my resignation. The principal whose wife embezzled, whose marriage imploded in public, whose personal life became the town's scandal. Instead, Superintendent Sandra Price stood at the podium and said, Mr. Hartley handled this crisis with integrity. When he could have covered it up to protect his reputation, he chose truth. That's the kind of leadership our children deserve to see modeled. The board voted 6-1 to publicly support my continued employment. The one dissenting vote was from a board member who said, a man should be able to keep his house in order. But 6 others stood up. Graham and Kelly formally filed adoption papers for the baby. Open adoption, approved by the court. Melissa had no choice. She'd lost custody of Lily, was facing criminal charges, had no income. She signed the papers. The baby would be born in a few weeks, would grow up knowing the truth, would be loved by parents who chose them. Lily got her college acceptance letter from UVM during all this. It had been sitting on her dresser at Coach Beth's house for 2 weeks, unopened. She'd been too scared to look at it. When she finally opened it, sitting at the kitchen table in my new apartment because I'd moved out of the house, her face lit up for the first time in months. I got in, she whispered. Of course you did, I smiled. Your future isn't defined by our mistakes, Lily. This is yours. You earned it with truth and hard work. She hung the acceptance letter on the refrigerator in our new place. Next to it, she put a photo of us at the sugar house, just the 2 of us working side by side during last fall's harvest. Not the perfect family photo Melissa wanted, just us. Honest. The Maple Festival was the first Saturday in May. 5,000 copies of the original program had been printed. The ones with our smiling family photo and the tagline, 100 Years of Family Tradition. Graham and I had them all recalled, pulped. We printed new ones. The new program showed just Lily and me at the sugar house. The tagline read, Building on Truth. The festival was our centennial celebration. 100 years of Hartley's Pure Vermont Maple. Vendors from across New England, local crafts, food trucks, live music, maple syrup tastings, pancake breakfast, the works. Attendance 5,200 people, more than we'd ever had. I was scheduled to give opening remarks at noon. I stood backstage behind the main platform, Lily beside me. She wore her field hockey jersey. She'd gone back to practice the week before, made the championship team. The tournament was next week. She reached for my hand. You ready? No, I admitted, but I'm doing it anyway. The crowd was enormous. Faces I'd known my whole life. Students from the high school, teachers, parents, town residents, tourists who'd driven from Massachusetts and New Hampshire and Connecticut to be here. Regional media had cameras set up. Everyone knew the story. The whole state of Vermont had heard about Principal Hartley by now. I walked onto the stage. The microphone felt heavy in my hand. The crowd quieted. Good afternoon? My voice echoed across the fairgrounds. Welcome to the 100th Maple Festival. I am Ethan Hartley, fourth generation owner of Hartley's Pure Vermont Maple. Polite applause. I looked out at the faces, saw my mother in the front row, Graham and Kelly holding hands, Emily Gardner with a group from the library, Coach Beth with several of Lily's teammates, Superintendent Sandra Price, half the school board. Some faces were sympathetic, some were curious, some were judging. I took a breath. 4 generations of Hartleys have stood on stages like this. My great-grandfather in 1924, my grandfather in the 50s and 60s, my father in the 80s and 90s, and now me. I paused. They taught me that legacy isn't about never making mistakes. Legacy is about what you refuse to pass down to the next generation. Lily stood at the edge of the stage, watching me. A wise man once told me, sweet things can spoil if you harvest them at the wrong time. He was talking about maple syrup, about how you have to know exactly when to tap the trees, when to collect the sap, when to boil it down. Timing matters. Patience matters. Doing it right matters. The crowd was silent now. But he also meant life, relationships, truth. My voice caught. Some legacies break because of other people's choices. That's happened to my family this year. Many of you know the story. Those who don't will hear it soon enough. Small towns don't keep secrets. A few people laughed uncomfortably. But here's what I learned. You can't preserve something that's already rotten. You can't build a legacy on lies. 4 generations built this business on honest work. Real maple syrup, no cutting corners, no deception. That's worth protecting. That's worth fighting for. I looked at Lily. My daughter taught me something recently. She said she couldn't pretend anymore, not even for something she loved. And I realized she was right. The hardest thing we can do is choose truth when lies would be easier. Choose honesty when silence would protect us. Choose integrity when everyone is watching and judging. The crowd was absolutely silent. So here's what I want to say. To everyone who supported my family through this crisis, thank you. To everyone who's judged us, that's your right. To everyone who's facing their own difficult truths, you're not alone, and you're braver than you know. I stepped back from the microphone. Now let's celebrate 100 years of honest work. Welcome to the Maple Festival. The crowd stood, not everyone, but most. The applause was thunderous. Lily ran onto the stage and grabbed my hand, squeezed it tight. You did it, Dad, she whispered. We did it, I corrected. Ethan and Lily redefined what family means. Not who you're born to, but who shows up with truth. If you've built your own chosen family, if you've had to walk away from people who should have protected you, tell me about them in the comments. And if this story moved you, if it reminded you that protecting your peace isn't selfish, subscribe. I tell stories about people who choose truth over comfort, even when it costs everything. I'll see you in the next one. 3 weeks later, on a Sunday morning in late May, I took Lily to the sugar house. The baby had been born the week before, a healthy girl. Graham and Kelly named her Claire. She was home now, in their house across town, starting her life with parents who'd chosen her. Melissa was living with her mother, starting her community service, staying away from Lily per the custody agreement. The divorce would be final in 60 days, but today, Today was about something else. The sugar house was quiet. We were between seasons. The spring run was over. The equipment was cleaned and stored. We wouldn't tap trees again until next February, but I wanted to show Lily how it worked. We walked through the building together. I showed her the evaporator where we boiled sap into syrup, the storage tanks, the bottling line, the old wooden beams my great-grandfather had installed himself. Then we went outside to the maple grove. Rows of sugar maples, 100 years old. Their leaves were bright green in the spring sunshine. Birds sang in the branches. The air smelled like fresh growth and possibility. Lily carried the antique brass tap in her hands. "Show me how it works," she said. I picked a tree, showed her where to drill the hole, 2 feet off the ground at a slight upward angle. Not too deep, just enough to reach the cambium layer where the sap flows. "Your great-great-grandfather did this in 1924, I said, tapped 300 trees by hand, built the business 1 tree at a time. Lily held the brass tap, feeling its weight. "It's heavier than I expected." "Real things usually are." I guided her hands, showed her how to fit the tap into the hole, how to tap it gently with a wooden mallet, 3 firm hits, not too hard, just enough to secure it. She did it herself. The mallet made a satisfying thunk against the wood. The tap seated perfectly. "Now what?" she asked. "Now we wait. When the season comes, sap flows through this tap. It takes 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. It's slow. It's hard work, but it's honest." She touched the engraved date on the tap. Hartley, 1924. The sugar house equipment hummed quietly behind us, refrigeration units keeping empty tanks cold, waiting for next season. In the distance, I could hear the highway, the sounds of the small town we called home. Lily looked up at me. "Dad, are we going to be okay?" "Yes, sweetheart, we are." "How do you know?" I put my arm around her shoulders. "Because we're building on truth now, and sweet things can spoil if you harvest them at the wrong time." She finished the sentence. "But when you tend them with truth, they last for generations." She smiled. A real smile. The first one I'd seen in months. We stood there together in the maple grove, father and daughter, 4th and 5th generation, the weight of 100 years behind us, the promise of honest years ahead. The brass tap glinted in the sunlight, still solid after a century, still true. Some legacies break, but others, the ones built on truth, those last forever. Behind us, the sugar house stood tall, Hartley painted across it in letters 3 feet high, a name built on honest work, on hard choices, on refusing to pass down lies. 4 generations built this, and now we were building it again, on truth this time, the way it should have been all along.